Hello, my name is Dr. Abbas. I'm a professor of rhetoric here at the University of Illinois, Chicago. I'm here to guide you through the social context of The Jungle, a book written by Upton Sinclair. The Union Stockyard and Transit Company of Chicago traces its roots back to 1864, when a consortium of 9 railroad companies came together to connect their rail lines in an effort to improve commercial transport that was affected by the blockades of the Civil War. These blockades led to a major influx of commercial businesses into Chicago, the largest of which was the meatpacking and livestock industry. For the next 3 decades, the stockyards grew to become the premier killing bed of America's domestic livestock. At the turn of the century, the Union Stockyard and Transit Company produced 82% of the domestic meat consumed by Americans. It also expanded to cover a square mile that went from Halsted Street to Ashland Avenue and from 39th to 47th Streets. Immigrants held the majority of the jobs in the stockyards, especially during the turn of the century. Thanks to advertising tactics initiated by owners of the meatpacking industry, many Eastern European immigrants found work at the meatpacking plants and other related plants. These workers had to suffer through low wages, corrupt legal and correctional policies, and a great deal of mental and physical health issues in order to survive their day-to-day life. They came believing that the hard work brings success, but later found it impossible for those working in the stockyards. The concept of laissez-faire capitalism prohibited any changes to these conditions because government regulation of businesses was not welcomed at the time. I have here with me a letter from a young Lithuanian immigrant named Maria. In this letter to her family, Maria details the hardships and difficulties she's had to go through while living in America. Throughout this letter, you should become aware of how Maria's life has changed throughout her experience in the Chicago stockyards.
October 13th, 1908. Dear family, I'm sorry for not writing you since our arrival in America. Now that we are fairly settled, I thought it would be a good idea to let you know how we have been doing. America is not what we expected it to be. It is hard to feed my children every day, even though I work from dawn till dusk. It has been 5 months since I've seen the sunlight. It is funny to think back to when we thought this was a good thing, that all the hard work would provide us with a home, warm meals, and the luxuries we were told America had waiting for us. But now, finding food and even a warm place to sleep at night have become luxuries in themselves. At work, they pay me 2 cents for every can that I paint, which comes to $2.50 each week. I came here to make a better life for my children, to send them to good schools, and now they even have to work. We are always asking our neighbors for help, but they are having a hard time surviving as well. No matter how hard life is in Lithuania, it is certainly harder here. I hope you are all well. Yours truly, Maria.
Hello again. Now that you've seen how life was like in the past at the Chicago stockyards, I'm going to show you why, and more importantly, how it has changed. My understudy, Rich, will help me to explain what brought about this change.
Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle, describing the horrid living and working conditions in the Chicago stockyards. This book was eventually hailed as a champion piece of social change and went on to influence the passing of the 1906 Wiley Act, which paved the road to improving working conditions.
The federal government sanctioned inspections into these factories by Charles Neal and James Reynolds. They were the first to go in and ended up publishing a document titled Conditions in the Chicago Stockyards. This, along with The Jungle, were very influential in pushing through legislation like the Wiley Act.
On a side note, there are also social responses to The Jungle as well, including a famous call to all socialists to read The Jungle by Jack London.
Besides literature, new technology and the relocation of rural farms contributed to the demise of the Chicago stockyards.
The area is now an industrial park home to very small factories, none of which are related to the meatpacking industry. The only structure that remains from the era is a giant arch over Halsted Street entering into the park.
I would like to take this time to go over what we have learned regarding the social context of the jungle. We have discussed how the living conditions in the back of the yards were deplorable, but accepted because those living there believed that their hard work would bring them wealth and a better life than what they had in their various countries of origin. In the end, though, they learned that this was not the case, and watched as their lives disintegrated into even more deplorable conditions than they could ever believe possible. We learn how the public's closed-eye view was changed after Upton Sinclair uncovered the unsanitary conditions within the meatpacking plants in his novel, The Jungle. We covered legislative and editorial responses to Sinclair's novel. And finally, we showed how much of the old back-of-the-yards neighborhood has changed today due to technological advances and higher social standards of working and living. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to watch the sequel to this piece, that discusses the rhetorical strategies used in the jungle.